Amazing. Okay, I feel like most people listening to this will already know who you are, but can you just introduce yourselves?
Okay.
Okay,
Go
I'm
Siddharth.
Siddharth. I teach biology and TLoC. Yeah, that's it.
All right. I am Sushmita. I am a teacher too. I teach English and theory of knowledge sometimes. And I don't know whether it's pertinent to add over here that yes, I'm a teacher and I love it, though I never planned it. But once it happened in my life, that was it for me.
Oh, but she's also the deputy principal academic.
Yeah, there is a question based on that. In fact, I'm going to start with that actually.
Okay, all right.
As the deputy principal of academics, what are some trends you observed over the years? Do you think that the priorities that NPS and the students have is the same, or do you think it's changed?
It's a kind of a mixture, I would say. Our primary focus, and whether that is the student body, teachers, parents, you take anyone, focus on students also, I think the primary focus has remained the same, which is academic excellence. I think that has not changed. But what may have changed is the way in which students want to learn. A little bit of that may have changed over the years, that not just the teacher's talking and we are listening. That can't happen, right, with all the changes that have taken place. So no, the primary focus or need has not changed in NPS.
Right.
That is still academic excellence, but also in a fun way, also in new ways, and I think students are receptive to that.
It's like the methods. to get-
Methods and approaches rather than the change in what are we looking for as the end goal. That has not changed.
Sure.
Methods and approaches, yes, to an extent.
I think, despite being a physics podcast, out of benevolence and fear, I'm gonna get the physics-related question out of the way first. And I think this is the main and only physics question which I'll be asking. But how far do you think just theory can carry you in physics? And by extension, any subject. But because as fields of study get more esoteric, like quantum mechanics and things like that, it's harder and harder to conduct an airtight study which can give you results. So how far do you think just theory can carry you?
Well, it depends on what the outcome is, right? If you're asking from an examination point of view, then I'm sure a good understanding of theory can get you far. Because even in IGCSE, you didn't really have a practical paper. You had an alternative to practical, and you were fine with that. So, but as opposed to whether if you want to really see how things work and if you want to design experiments, you still have your IAs, from an IB perspective. But yeah, I don't think just theory may help you do well in the lab if you were to do real life experiments. But from a purely conceptual point of view, a strong enough theoretical foundation should be able to help you do well.
What about and that's obviously from the studies point of view, the IB point of view. What do you think for the more general purpose point of view? At the Large Hadron Collider, a lot of physics related spaces, one thing which they try to do is they try to make mini black holes. They chuck particles at each other at really, really high speeds to see if it'll create a small black hole. And in theory, that's perfectly safe because it'll just radiate away pretty soon. But for all we know, it won't radiate away, or there'll be some other effects at play, and that'll just swallow up the entire Earth. How far do you think you could trust the theory on something like that, where scientists say that it's perfectly safe as far as we know, but this is still the first time they're ever testing that?
I think if I were to speak about this, it would be such a non-science response. So I think you'll have to fall back on Siddharth for the most scientific response.
No, but that's why I'm interviewing both of you.
Yeah. So for me, when you say, I'm a literature teacher, so everything most of it is in the creative mind. It is, it's left to the imagination. So much is from the imagination and left to the imagination. So for me, it's so there are two parts to this. One is that, if theoretically it is saying so, probably it is the result of something, they've at least in a formulaic way, they've tested, come down to it, and therefore it is there. The other side of it for me is if it is just theory and limited to only theory, then how do you find the relevance of it in the practical world? So is theory really enough, or does it suffice? And I know that's not at all a scientific answer, but the only way I can think of theory is if you don't, if one is you leave. There's a lot of the imagination, but you also have to take it out into the world, and if there is no applicability over there, it's so pointless.
Okay. That is, I guess, a problem some people have with very, very, very theoretical stuff. Even like mathematics, like very theoretical mathematics, where they think that it shouldn't be funded as much as like much more practical stuff or like military-related functions. But yeah, what do you think about like just in general, how far we can trust theory that way, like for practical stuff?
So this is the textbook nature of science and TOK, right? So if anyone listening to this is from IB, so they should be doing this in the physics classroom itself. So I mean, I'm not a physics expert also, but yeah, it has happened in bio which I teach, where experiments have backfired, where drugs were made, which were tried, and it caused lethal effects on people, pregnant women, babies deformed, because they thought that they have understood as far as they can, but then when it went out into the real world, it backfired. So obviously a black hole swallowing a planet Earth is a little bit more serious, one would think. So maybe why don't you do it in Mars first?
Yeah, maybe we can try that.
Maybe that's
That's a nice analogy, though. Deformed babies to a literature teacher is almost equivalent to a swallowed up Earth. Really?
Truly, the British are a great race. Yeah. I feel both of y'all have brought up TOK a bunch, and I think it's, at least for most of the listeners, it's like known knowledge that both of y'all love TOK and like epistemology as a study. What do you think TOK brings to the table that like deeply studying other subjects can't also bring?
If you deeply study any subject, you are doing TOK.
Yeah.
Because the nature of any subject is what is explored in TOK. It's just that some jargon and some words are used which may seem like it's something else, but TOK was never meant to be a separate subject by itself. It's more of a way of doing things rather than content or what is being done, right? So that's why we hope that in every subject, in every lesson, it's not in every lesson, but once in a while in every subject. The teacher and or at least the student must be reading up the nature of knowledge connections in the respective textbooks or syllabus guides. It's out there, and the only caution is that there are plenty of TOK websites which may or may not be a good place to get information from, because it might be skewed or it might not be well thought out. So you have to be careful with taking the easy way out. But really, if you study anything, not just any subject, because we have the themes, which is not just about areas of knowledge. If you do anything deeply enough, you would be engaging with TOK, whether you are aware of it or whether you plan to or not. Because it's essentially getting down to how we know what we know. So that's something quite fundamental, right? Not just an academic pursuit, technically speaking.
And if I were to add anything to that, I think it relates very nicely back to your theory versus practical or real life situation. Because what happens when you, like he said, if you do it that deeply, you will move from what is just being studied in that subject to how does it then apply to just how you know about things around you, in things that you do, in things that you see, and that's where TOK and every subject ought to push you and make that link to TOK. Right, so
this one's for you, Siddharth. I think I might be able to guess the answer to this question. But what is your favorite science?
My favorite science?
Yeah.
I mean, bio is pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you weren't teaching biology, what science do you think you would like to teach?
What science I would like to teach?
Actually, let's say just what subject you would like to teach.
I know that answer, but I'm keeping quiet.
I don't think I have one specific. I have a bunch. Definitely not from STEM.
Okay.
None of them are from STEM. So it will be either philosophy. I am exploring psychology. I do love literature. Probably these three would be the realistic.
Okay. So philosophy, psychology, literature.
Yeah.
Okay. I am very much out of my depth here, but philosophy-wise, what like fields of philosophy do you like to explore? Like which philosophers?
Pretty much many of them. There is ethics, there is epistemology, mostly, or existentialism. I mean, I like to explore that theme. Like why? I'm obsessed with why and how more than what. I mean, how is a bit, mostly the why. Yeah, I like to go deep into pretty much most things. So
for you, do you think philosophy is something you would also like to teach?
I don't know whether I'd like to teach it. I did have it as one of my subjects in my undergrad, psych and philosophy, because I was, doing the humanities, literature as a major. I don't know whether I'd like to teach it, but when you're teaching literature, there is the philosophy
Right.
part of it that is so there. You cannot ignore it, right? So being a literature teacher pretty much gives you an opening into these discussions, the philosophy, existentialism. That's an
Yeah.
entire branch of literary writing. So you end up definitely discussing, and I think I like it like that.
Yeah.
I love literature. I cannot, and TLoC of course, and I cannot think of teaching anything else really. So it's literature and everything that is related to it for me.
So you like those subjects are like supplementaries.
Yeah, it
Okay.
is. I mean, I wouldn't mind psychology. I think I'd really enjoy teaching psychology or something like world studies, if there was a subject like that to do with, things that are happening around the world. But literature it is for me.
Actually, you mentioned your undergrad. I know that you went to the University of Calcutta.
Yes,
and I
I
think
did.
you went to NTU, right? So how do you think the different cultures in these very, very different universities contributed to the way that you approach like studying and like academia in general? Do you think that there's a significant difference?
Yep, I will go with that first because it's not only a university difference, it's a generation difference between us also, kind of almost. How young he is and how young I am. So there's that difference. So for me, studying at university was very different, which was more, again, lecture based. Your professors came in, gave you your lectures. You were supposed to just imbibe all of that, take their knowledge and then retain as much of that as you could. So when later on I was studying for my PGC EI, it was a very new approach to writing and exploring my own thoughts. I had to relearn
Right.
everything, or rather not even relearn, I had to learn.
Okay.
It was not about relearning, it was learning a new way of expressing my ideas. I was not equipped with those skills in my own studying and exploration. Very interestingly though, the IB way of teaching, which is completely different from that lecture method, came to me very naturally. It just happened, I was able to, and of course there's been that over the years, the tweaks that I've had to make to suit the younger and younger students that I've been getting, but there is a whole lot of culture difference between how I studied and how I teach now, for sure, and how he may have learnt.
Well, I think, okay, firstly I have to say that this is a subjective take because, which means I'm going to say stuff which is not exactly universally acceptable or objective. So, no, I didn't like my time in university so much in terms of pedagogy or teaching. I was bored to death. So it's very important for people to remember to choose majors which they really are passionate about. So I imagine the worst possible scenario, because I'm a teacher student, or at least I was, meaning that my passion or interest levels change based on who is in teaching. So which means I can get bored very easily, or I can do a lot of work without even feeling like I'm working. So in university, 95% of my lecturers were boring.
Oh no.
And so
Sad.
and I was pretty much failing my first year. So, but I mean, so more than NTU, the fact that I did STEM in a first world country in 21st century, I am grateful to the way it makes me think about topics. And so even though I identify with humanities more over time, I'm glad for the STEM way of thinking about things. So now I can marry two ways of looking into problems, from a STEM and a more subjective humanities perspective rather. So, but yeah, unlike her, I did start writing theses and reports earlier on. So I'm much more comfortable with coming up with your own research question and doing your research and evaluating sources, and so in that sense it helped me for how things are done even now. So that hasn't changed drastically.
I think even for me, because I'm very much a STEM major, all three of my HLs are STEM, but I also love looking into the humanities side of things. There's a reason why I'm like haunting the English HL class right now. But I definitely still think that sometimes when I'm approaching even like humanities related topics or problems, I kind of like find myself reaching for a calculator. Not like literally, but figuratively. I'll reach for like Python or computer science. I like objectively looking at subjective things to like get a base. I think a lot of people do that as well.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Actually, I think Siddharth and I have this chat quite often. Like, I think because he's STEM trained
Right.
and I am literature trained or the arts trained, our brains actually function very differently, and we often laugh about it, from the way we cook to the way we just look at a problem. Like, I will have this full picture, like, that is the end goal, and these are all these branches that I see, and he will be like, path 1, path 2, path 3, and it is such a STEM way of thinking. Like I said, even in cooking, he will be like, exact amounts of this. I'm like, throw that in, the end result is going to be beautiful, don't you worry. So yeah, it's two very different ways of thinking too.
I feel like I'm biased. I'm very much team cooking as a chemistry.
Yeah.
I too will.
It's not just between the two of us. I think even
Yeah.
in a big group of friends, we've seen a divide between science, STEM teachers cooking versus English teachers cooking.
Like, just put everything in and we are concocting this lovely thing. They are very precise in their approach.
We're all about reliability, replicability, consistency, precision. But of course, we do make changes, but we will keep track of what changes, and that will become the new thing. It's not like just try what.
I don't know what I made. Like, it came out like
Gotta
that.
make sure the cookie recipe is improving over time, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the problem with these people is you never know what is going. You like, I want that, but then that is gone.
It's a
Like,
gamble.
it's similar, just have
It's
it.
never going to come back. Like, you never know.
Some of the best cookies I've had were by humanities students. Some of the worst cookies I've had were by humanities students.
Yeah, there are all kinds, right? Yeah.
Okay. This is a personal story of mine. A few months ago, in like late October, November, I went to the ECP for like beach cleaning. I was heading home. And then I got jump scared by Siddharth sir coming out of a bus. And I was terrified, okay? But that got me thinking. Thankfully, I was with like Arohi. And so then, like, we immediately messaged all the bar students we knew to like inform them of this latest development. But that got me thinking, what are your favorite like haunts? I guess both of you all separately, individually, together, with family, with friends, in Singapore. Favorite place to go, just in general.
Favorite places to go? I love, this is more general, I'll come to the more specific places that I like to go. I love taking my work, whatever work, it could be marking, it could be just, writing up some document, and going to cafes. There's one that I particularly love because it's a pet-friendly one called Chantilly, right on Siglap. I love going there because they allow you to. I don't have a pet, but people bring theirs, so it just makes me feel happy that I'm sitting there. But generally, I love just going to cafes, sitting there, observing people doing my work. That's one thing by myself, individually, I like to do. What's your individual
I don't
favorite
have a
place?
specific, because the elements I like is often rare to come by in Singapore throughout the year. It's like select moments. I like a strong breeze, and I like blood orange twilight, and I like less people or hardly any people.
Even more poetic.
Yeah, so it's very difficult to get that in Singapore. So, but there are snatches or seconds when all three combine, which is not often enough in this place. But I do like any place with generally great food because I'm a foodie, and maybe a place like the Projector symbolizes.
I was just going to. That was my second thing, and I think together we do a lot of that. And groups of friends, what will be in a group of friends our favorite places? Usually each other's houses. Yeah, yeah. Those are our favorite places, like friends' houses and how we go. Projector is a common one. Love going for the movie experience. I think both of us love that.
Yeah, because I like more of the sheer landscapes, which is hard to come by in Singapore.
I think near Changi, like on the top corner of Changi, there's this place that I've always been meaning to go, which seems kind of like something you like because it's very wide open, lots of nice fields and stuff. Even like Old Thompson Road has the same thing. Except I've always been terrified to go there unless it's in a large group because it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, I'm pretty sure that's the only problem you get with places like that in Singapore, which is that if it's somewhere that's so barren that's like pleasant to be in, it's also so barren that's like a danger if you like accidentally hurt yourself or something. Yeah, I guess if you're in a group, then it's less of that.
I like the walking trails also. If I'm with a friend or a group of friends, I do like the walking trails here also. Been on some of them and I enjoyed those.
While we're on the topic of like favorite places, what about your favorite pieces of media? Anything, like songs, books, plays, shows, movies.
Favorite what again?
Favorite piece of media, like right now,
Like a
back
specific-
to your mind, piece of media. Yeah.
piece of music. You want to go first or?
No, you can go first. It's okay.
So I'm a soundtrack person. So I like non-vocal music. So I listen to the soundtracks of shows and movies that I watch. So recently I did enjoy some of the tracks, surprisingly from Wonka, which is actually includes vocals more than music score. But like the Hans Zimmer kind of background tracks, and even the Tamil film, surprisingly, it's catching up with background scores with Ponniyin Selvan. A.R. Rahman's background score was quite nice. Yeah.
I should probably recommend that to my parents. They're also huge soundtrack people.
Right.
And Aruhi also, I think. Like one of my friends is also a huge soundtrack person.
Yeah.
I teeter between them. I like a few soundtracks.
So for me, the human voice is also an instrument. So I don't see it as a separate thing, which is why I can't pay attention to words. So it's like yet another instrument in an ensemble. That's how I see the human voice.
I think in opera and classical, that's something which they do, right?
I'm tone deaf. I'll start with I'm tone deaf, and he being my good friend can vouch for that I'm completely tone deaf. So obviously the written word is my favorite. Written, spoken also.
Okay.
So if for him like soundtrack is what he will go for me it's the lyrics, because I don't understand the differences in tones and things. So it's a written word for me. Lyrics are, and reading books any day. One of my favorites, or no, I'll list some of my favorites. Like I could go back and keep reading those books. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Fine Balance, Poisonwood Bible. These 3 books, like I could immerse myself in them over and over. But yes, it's reading for me.
Okay. So I guess like series,
I don't have patience enough for series, but I did watch Breaking Bad. That's the one thing I completed. I was immersed in it. The one series that I actually completed the entire thing, because I don't have enough patience to complete all. There are a few others like nice short ones like Atypical. I loved it.
Sex
Education, loved it. A few others that we've loved. The Mindhunter, but they stopped it after 2 seasons, so loved it. And yesterday I was reading about why they stopped it. It's finance, it's again money, and that's why they had to stop it. But I can watch the shorter ones.
The last movie that I watched and I really loved it was Poor Things.
Right.
I think it's R21 though, so I'm not sure if you guys can watch it right now, but it's at some point in time.
Okay. I'll pop up a little warning for the listeners on the screen.
Yeah, I watched the Teachers Lounge literally last week. Lovely. Obviously, I identified with it also. A German movie playing in the projector called The Teachers Lounge. Really, really loved
And
it.
we have to watch The Holdover. It's also another teacher-based movie.
Yeah, we're going to probably this week, next week, The Holdover. Yeah.
Okay. This one's a bit of a long shot, but okay. First things first. I know that teaching a bunch of IB kids is already very stressful, but in case you want to add on to that adrenaline, do you all like any extreme sports or not so extreme sports? Any sports?
I play tennis. I love it. I like I can any time of the day I can play it, and it's something I picked up recently.
Oh, okay.
I didn't play it as when I was young, but always followed the sport, and I'm so happy that I finally actually started playing 3 years back, I think. COVID, I think I started playing 3 years back and loving it.
What is an extreme sport again?
Extreme sport, I feel.
Rock climbing.
Yeah, I feel like extreme sports, anything which is like gets the adrenaline pumping. Though to be fair, any sport can get the adrenaline pumping.
Yeah,
Okay, any sport where there's like clear risk to life and limb, I would count as an extreme sport.
No, I don't like extreme sport, but I love sport.
I would say even skiing, because like you could lose a limb if you're very, very unlucky.
Okay. No, I don't think I've done any extreme sport ever.
Any of the water sport that you were half
I mean,
drowning
all
in
water
or something?
sports are extreme because I don't know how to swim. So in that sense,
so it's extreme for him, and he was drowning,
Yeah.
literally actually drowning,
yeah.
trying to do one.
Otherwise, I have adrenaline flowing generally all the time, so I don't need extreme sport for that. Yeah, but I mean, I want to try skydiving once, and
Yeah.
I've done bungee once. Long back.
He's done bungee. I haven't. I don't think I can.
In college
ever.
time, yeah.
Bungee is too much for me.
Yeah,
like,
even
I
I-
did like a mini one as a child for streaming.
I don't think I can do bungee either. It's
So the
just
trick is not to look down when you jump. That's all. Yeah.
No, the jumping part is fine. I'm perfectly fine barreling towards the ground. It's when you go back up, like your stomach goes into your stomach up.
But I do like the idea of extreme. I have not been doing it, but I am a kind of person who would like extreme sport. Yeah.
The last time you did a rock climbing, you were pretty good. You
Yeah.
really went very quickly. I was surprised, but well done.
Surprise is crazy. Wow. Okay. No faith.
But I'm generally not into physical exertion.
That's why.
I like to eat and nap and watch stuff. Yeah.
That's relatable. Yeah. Okay. Last question. Since we're still, I'd say we're still like roughly on the sports thing. Any sports teams you follow for the listeners, so they can like support you, or
Teams. Teams or individuals?
teams, individual, both. You mentioned tennis. Do you follow?
Djokovic.
Of course. What is it with humanities-related people playing tennis and liking Djokovic?
Oh my God, I love him. Like, and right now I'm heartbroken because of the Australian Open
So am I.
results. But I was a big Federer fan, but Federer is retired. I always liked Djokovic, and I love him now for everything that he has achieved. And I'm Indian, of course, the Indian cricket team.
Of course.
Always, cheering them on.
I used to follow tennis. Right now, I'm not following much, but I stopped when Nadal. I mean, he was my favorite. And with women, it was even much earlier than that. It was Justin Henin Harding. That's like way back. After that, I've lost track of women's tennis also. So right now, no time for sports following.
Maybe one day in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the idea of it, but no, I don't have the time to spend to watch hours of
Yeah.
sports. No.
I feel like getting into it if you haven't been following it is harder because you have to like learn all of the like current standings, opinions in teams, things like that.
But sports, like either playing or watching, I find it such a stress buster. Like you can just watch or go play, even better. It just takes away everything else. Like you can just do that. For me, sports is like that.
Okay.
That's the work it does.
Oh, I can only do 5 things a day. I'm too slow. So, and eating, sleeping counts as 2 of the 5 of them.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Honestly, a good principle. I feel like I will follow that when I grow up.
No, I literally can't. So
I
it's
think
not a question
I'm
of
the
choosing to.
exact opposite of that.
I can't multitask and I can't do too many things in a day. Like, I need to. Time flies by when I'm just sitting up.
Yeah, we're really, really opposite in that one. I have to do 100 things all at once. He likes just sit. Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes multitasking helps me at least like focus. Like if I'm just studying, can't do it. If I'm studying and listening to something and like learning a piano piece and like playing something and doing maths, then I can study. It has
That's
a lot of
probably
things
because
to
you're
do.
good at math.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
I cannot.
But if I'm studying, I need to either, keep snacking or drinking something. I can't
Yeah.
study either. Just study. I have to do something with it
Yeah.
too.
There's like a theory, I guess this is TLoC-ish, and I guess it's also pseudoscience-ish, so maybe not the best place to bring it up. But there is a theory that to some extent concentration is granular. Like, I know that it's been disproved that willpower is granular, but that sometimes if you have like a certain capacity for work which you can do, but the work which you're attempting to do is below that, then you won't be able to focus because you have all of this untapped capacity just spilling over. So for some people, they're able to have a low capacity but very powerful focused thing, which I guess you would be more towards, where you won't do multiple things at once, but the things you are doing you'll be very focused on.
Yeah, it is very evident actually.
But
when
then for
he
some
does.
people, they'll have a lot of capacity, maybe less focus, but a lot of capacity, so then they have to fill that up with things so they can focus on all the things they're doing.
That's me.
For me,
it
everything has
it
to
is
be
me.
deliberate.
He's very focused. If we are like, we can see that even when we work together, like that's how he works. And I'm like 10 different things going on.
I mean, I do go into rabbit holes. It's not that I don't,
Yeah.
but it'll still be related to just that. So I have,
Focus
I have to get into the flow. That's why I often struggle with starting things, because I know that once I start, I won't stop. So then I put off starting things unless I know I'm ready for it. So then I go all in. So it's either 0 or 100 for me,
Yeah.
which is why I struggle with doing many things.
It's nice to cruise at that 70 sometimes.
Yeah.
Just letting you know.
That's a car metaphor. I am completely unaware. I can guess. That's what I can do.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's 0 or 100.
Yeah. Actually, you did mention like getting into rabbit holes. Any esoteric hobbies that y'all have? Anything that you think that very few people listening in may share that hobby?
Not really. You tend to lose such ideas of you are the only person doing something as you get older.
Not the only person, but I feel like there's some things which you may not expect too many people to do. Like you see someone else doing it and you like celebrate.
I don't know, it's not really a hobby, but I like making things with my hands and it's only just limited to when I'm gifting things to my friends. I love doing handmade stuff. It's not something that only I do. I know a lot of people do that,
Right.
but somehow I feel that I never thought I was that kind of a person. And then I turned out to be that kind of a person, and that surprised me.
Huh.
So I'm like, yeah, I really like doing, it could be a painting or it could be a little thing that I've made or even baked cookies or whatever, but just doing things, with my own hands for my friends. It's not really a hobby though.
I mean,
but
I
do
would
it.
count it as a hobby.
Yeah, I do it.
I think I do have something. So where I find myself with very few people in the internet, because like I said, my thing is soundtracks. So sometimes many soundtracks don't get released officially,
Right.
and there'll be the most random, like a 5-second or even a 10-second bit of music, and it won't be there anywhere officially. So if I get it, it'll be like a clipping with the audio track, and I don't get the pure music thread, so I get frustrated and I try to find where can I get just that bit of music, and it can get very extreme, and I'll find like maybe 2 or 3 other people in the world are asking for that same bit. So you know that when you go to YouTube and there are only like 22 comments or no comments, and only one person says, I have been waiting for this for 5 years, can you please help? And I'm like, yeah, I'm also one of them. But yeah, that would be probably be it.
That's the most terrifying thing. Like when you're on a forum looking for something and the last comment is from 8 years ago.
Yeah. That's happened to me many times now that I
Yeah,
think
for
about
sure.
it. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's pretty much it. Thank
That
you guys.
wasn't so physics related, so
Not
I'm
at
okay
all.
with that. Yeah.
So I didn't want to over physics
I'm
again.
like, oh damn, I don't know so much about physics, but okay.
Yeah, I had a bad experience with physics in my high school, so
I haven't had much of an experience with physics at all. I stopped it at high school. After high school, just stopped. Yeah, so that was okay.
Okay. Thank you
Okay,
guys so
thank
much for
you.
coming. This was the
Thank
first
you.
episode, by the way.
Physoc.